Patrick, I've really been looking forward to this moment. I like talking about this stuff. Not a lot of people like talking about franchising. I get to talk about franchising. So to tee this up, the way this conversation gets started, I'm grateful that you replied. One of the people in our company sent me a video. They're like, "Hey, 1851 was reviewed." I was like, "All right, I like what you're doing. I think it's smart." And ultimately, if I'm reading your business model right, and I obviously would love for you to give an opening.
Yeah, I can dive in on that
story. But like you're obviously creating databases for franchise buyers, and as a part of that, you're saying, "Here's my opinion on the industry," and I think it's smart. So you want to give an opening statement on you, and then I guess you can.
Yeah, definitely. So my brother and I have a couple companies, but our main focus right now is on vetted biz, and we had a database on all these franchisors and franchisees offline going back 4 years. And 3 years ago, we're like, let's just put this online and we can figure out how to monetize it later. And that's essentially what we've done with Vetted Biz. We're the main focus, the main customer are prospective franchise buyers, but then also others in the franchise ecosystem, like franchise brokers, consultants, even private equity funds that are looking to buy whole franchise systems will be clients of and customers of Vetted Biz, essentially for the data, the financials on franchises, even the contact information on franchisors, franchisees. So we produce a lot of content as 1851 does. And yeah, I'm glad we're able to connect today.
Well, I think there's similarities because 1851, I mean, I was running the PR side of our business. I was like, man, we have all this content that we create, whether it's like interviewing franchisees or press releases. I was like, let's put it out on the web so that people can find it. And I mean, at that point, it's definitely swung. At that point, it's all press releases. So it's absolutely protection of brand in that sense. And then, things progress. I mean, that was years ago. It progressed. And I was like, I was a journalist that went to the dark side. What would it look like to go back to something that's not as dark, which is, trying to be a media person. But I would love you have questions for me that I would love to explain how things work and challenge
Sure.
it.
Yeah, I would love that, Nick. So I've gone through a bunch of the franchise influencer lists, and I understand you collaborated with SEO Samba on it. How many years have you been running this franchise influencers list?
2 with them on the influencer list. And the way that came up was they were running their own, and we were thinking about putting together a list. And really I'll tell you, like there's no ranking. Like the numbers are.
I saw that. Yeah, I guess 2021 there was a pseudo ranking, but it was more
not
just
even real.
Okay.
It was more like it was more like, how do you organize a list? Because everyone's like, and frankly, when I'm looking on LinkedIn, people are like, "Congratulations on being number 20." I'm like, no, that's just like how.
That's what I saw. That's why I saw the system. I'm like, what's going on with this? It generated a buzz for sure.
Well, I think the insight there that we need to put into action is make sure that the disclaimer is clear on the top that there's no ranking here. This is basically like, if you want to go connect with people in franchising on LinkedIn, here's the database.
Here's your top 200 that you really need to be engaged with.
Yeah, and I'll say and I'm going to show you my screen real quick because cool. I think it's relevant, and you'll see. Not that she wants to admit that she put this in here, but Leanne Caruso, who's at Entrepreneur Magazine. Disclaimer: she actually used to work at Mainland, so we've worked together. But she literally wrote, "I nominate Nick Powills because no one will nominate him, but I think he deserves a spot." So it's not like I magically said. And I've debated about it in the past because it's like, should my name be on there or not? But I mean, I get if the answer is, am I an influencer? I mean, you and I are both influencers. We're building content.
We don't work for franchisors, but with the media and data that we're sharing.
Totally. So anyway, that it's not a list. There's no ranking on there.
And how does the process work? Like, how are people nominated? How did you do the list this time around this year?
So we sent out an email to our database. We have probably 5,000-ish names, and that's just years of people, filling out subscribe here and lists of shows that I've gone to or clients and such. and all the broker, like we have a fairly large list of franchise brokers. So we just sent out an email and said nominate people, and that's literally it. So there was a landing page where people put their nominations in, and we took the nominations. And as long as it wasn't like, I mean, there were plenty of people that were like, I am awesome. We're like, nah, we want someone else to say that you're awesome, ideally. So yeah, I mean, it was just submissions and built it that way.
Any ideas like expanding the list? Because like, I guess a lot of the franchises that like franchise brokers are placing candidates in are like home service brands or like franchises where you can get in at like 50, 100K, 200K. But there's some like mega big hotel chains that are publicly traded, like Hilton, Marriott, where they're huge influencers and they are doing franchising. And I wonder if there's some way that those folks could be incorporated in.
Billion%. I think obviously it's, and we'll get into even how we source content on the main site. But yeah, I mean, it's access to names. Like I know who I know, but I don't know everybody. So I think that's where, and we've been trying to add suppliers into any of our things. Like we do website awards, and we have 8 judges, even technically competitors on the agency side to us. But we're like, if we have more people, then the lists are going to get better, and it's going to be cultivated better, and it's going to be judged better. So yeah, I mean, maybe
one of the ideas I'm toying around with is like an index. There's like 45 franchise companies that are publicly traded, and like having an index of like how they compare to the S&P 500. And like we could get you like all those public company executives, and you know, some of them probably aren't really influencers, maybe if they're the COO, but if they're a founder, CEO of one of those 40 companies, like they're probably making a pretty big impact in the franchising space.
They should. Well, and use that as an example. I mean, I've always been critical of the franchise industry, which is technically the International Franchise Association would be the industry. And you look at who's on the board there, and it's all brands that haven't really done much. So, you know, I don't think.
Did you see that hearing on the SBA franchise financing?
Exactly the point.
I thought that was pretty wild. I mean, it was really just nothing's wrong. Everything's like amazing in franchising. There's no fraud, never any scams. Like, let's just keep it exactly how it is. And, you know, sadly, there are bad actors, and ideally there could be some collaboration where things are changed.
Well, and use that as an open invitation that if you're interested, even on influencer or something else, even come up with another idea on things that we can create exposure for. Fantastic. I will say, so we have a State Envy, Room 1903, Stash Cod. Those are 3 other publications that we have live. And in essence, the way the model works is we have a trade magazine on the front end. No editorial can be paid for. No client can pay us a dime to have it. And then on the back end, they get basically an active newsroom that's theirs. Those are paid experiences. In other categories like home, there's no BS in franchising. Other PR firms don't want us talking to their clients. So it is welcome. We'll interview anybody, and we're not to steal their business. I could care less. Like there's plenty of business to go around.
Yeah, because I mean, at the end of the day, like you've almost more. It's probably like what in 5 years a lot of PR firms will go into, but you're ahead of the curve where it's like open source, like open, transparent, and like not like protecting clients, and it's kind of everyone rises together.
No, I think, you know, the reality is a third of franchisees in every system, it's just math, is going to be somewhat frustrated. And in my opinion, I think it's because I think the item 19 is a beautiful tool, and I understand the point of it, but I don't think item 19s as a whole break down expectations based on demographics, community, and time into the system. So you get these big
time they've been in the system, and then how many hours they've allocated. Where I've seen, I mean, I see franchising as an extreme. It's either you're working like crazy hours the first 2 years to get it off the ground, and you can expect to make good money with that, or you put in the minimal and you get the minimal. and you're getting a very low return and it's semi-absentee, but you're not going to live off that business. It's going to barely move the needle for you and your family unless you like really dive in and roll up your sleeves.
I think that's the and it's not sad, because the reality is like a chuck in a truck most likely is replacing their income in a business that they're in control of. But I don't think a chuck in a truck goes into business saying, I just want to replace my income. I think they go into it thinking, I'm going to build wealth, or I'm going to get wealthy. Yes. And so I think it's the responsibility of the community to say, here's the expectations. Yes, there are unicorns that happen, but most likely the only way you're going to build wealth in franchising is if you can scale your business.
Yes.
And if you're going and buying a boat when you have one unit, you're probably not going to scale your business. And totally fine, live the life that you want, but you're not going to build wealth. And I think that's like, we sell well.
What's the expectation? Some people it's cash flow, and other people it's building, an asset that they can have a nice capital gain on someday.
Right. So yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I think what we're trying to accomplish, and I appreciated the video. I'm like, I need to do a better job at explaining our mission and values. And we do, but content dies very quickly. Like, content that we post today is gone tomorrow. So, our intentions have always been like, let's educate the community, even on the franchisor side. There are plenty of new franchise brands that are like, I'm going to become a franchise and sell 1 billion franchises. Like, no, you'll probably sell 2 in year 1, maybe then 4, maybe then 6, maybe then 10. And over 5 years, if you have 25 units, you're actually doing okay. But no, I don't think the voice of reality is very strong in
there's a big agency issue with franchising, where it's kind of like you go to buy a home and everyone's pushing you to buy the home. The realtor, the title agent, the accountant's going to get some work done on it. So everyone wants you to do this, but it's like, who has your best interest? And with franchise, I think a lot of people have to take a step back, whether it's the franchisor or a franchisee. And it's like, for a franchise, if you have like 5 locations, corporate locations, and you're thinking about franchising, do you really want to be married to like 20 different business partners for like a 10-year period? And it could work out super well, but if you're super happy with your 5 restaurant chain, it might be better.
Well, and Patrick, I think it's getting more complex, because like the broker networks, go back 2008, it was portals. So you go to Gator, you look at the inventory, you pick the brand, you go inquire, you buy the brand. And it actually worked at that time because the inventory or access to information wasn't as strong as it is today. And then it transformed into the broker. And there are fantastic franchise brokers out there, but there's also ones that are like, you pay me nothing. It's like, yeah, but in the back of the alley, the check is handed over to the Zor. The Zor hands it right back to the broker. You are paying a lot. So, I think it's the trend again. Like, all this comes back to is transparency in franchising. Can us as an industry, and whether it's a list or lists, whatever it turns into, can we challenge this to make sure it's not going to be perfect, but can we educate the buyers, the franchisors, the suppliers, the industry on what realities are, and then let them make their own decisions?
One metric that we haven't implemented on our website, like some of the long form blog posts that we do on franchises will have it, but it's like, what's the resale value? So if you invest $150K in year 3 or year 5, like, are you going to sell for 300, or does that business sell for 100K? And if it sells for less than you invested, like, buy an existing one. Like, don't start a franchise from zero, or look at some other franchise business.
Well, I think it's a great point. I think we call them franchisees, but you could break out various categories. There are franchisees who I think are risk averse, buying a job replacement. Totally fine. It serves a purpose. Then you have franchise operators that say, I'm going to build scale. I need to build a business and eventually exit. Like, it's a different mentality. But we couple it all together and call it franchising. And I think there's so many different layers of it that makes it more complex, but nobody's taken the effort to educate what that looks like.
And how's your selection process bringing on clients? Because I've seen, like, compared, especially you mentioned the franchise portals, it's just a joke where it's like, half the franchises aren't actually franchises and they're business opportunities. And for 1851, it's like they're all franchises. And from what I've seen, they all seem like pretty legit brands, where I haven't seen the ones with crazy big failure rates that are sponsored posts. So you're clearly doing something where someone can't just like write you a check and you like produce a ton of content on them. How are you taking on clients, and like do you have like a selection process before taking a client on?
Yeah, so I'll say, I mean, it's never perfect. I mean, first we have the asshole test. If someone's an asshole, like especially in the labor market that exists today, if someone's mean to my staff, I'm going to lose staff. I lose staff, I lose business. So that's one. And so when when I'm vetting a brand, I mean, I was talking to emerging brand this morning. It happens to be in the QSR Mexican brand.
Okay.
And I'm looking at their footprint. I said, look, you don't have any why now. So to the buyer, they're landing on your site and they don't know what you sell. So if they don't know what you sell and you don't educate them on the business model, then it's going to be hard to build successful franchisees. And so when I vet that, like, no, they listen. So sometimes we'll do more of an assessment at the beginning of the relationship. Now I'll tell you and we lose clients because of this, but we'll have client X will say, I want 50 deals next year. We're like, okay, how many did you do last year? And they go, we did 25. I said, okay, so you're going to double. I say, will you double your marketing spend to get your message out there? Well, no. We look at their FTD. I'm like, well, your franchisees don't make money. So where are these buyers? Oh, they're coming. And so it doesn't mean we say we don't work with them. We're transparent, and sometimes transparency.
You can't give value.
No,
you're not going to achieve. Them engaging you is not going to achieve their objective at 50.
It's lipstick on a pig. It doesn't like you got litigation in your FTD. Your investment to return ratio is poor. And when I call your franchisees and say, would you do this again? And they're like, I don't know. Then, I mean, I can get you PR on the good parts. Yeah. We can write great stories on the founder's vision and your intentions. But when it comes down to helping you sell franchise, it doesn't. So from the PR front, I've always said PR is not lead generation, it's lead awareness. Yeah. And it's up to the buyer to land on the brand and discover. That's not us. That's not our responsibility.
I imagine PR too, it's like strategic relationships, where there's also a huge B2B angle where people in the industry are reading, the information you produce, and they might reach out about a collaboration, or it could be a prospective investor that wants to give growth equity to the brand. So
totally. I mean, and that's the thing. Like, the pathway to truth is so challenging in franchising, and you can take a non-franchisor, a new business. It's like, I want to franchise my hot dog stand. The amount of consultants that are willing to do it without saying, here's the obstacles, are tremendous. So you're going to get franchised.
Definitely.
The amount of attorneys that say, sure, I can do an FDD, are tremendous. So it's not going to be sound. And so what happens is then you have bad businesses, or maybe not bad businesses, but not a great franchise business.
Not competitive in the marketplace.
And it's like franchisees, in my opinion, they're not overly sophisticated at that level. And they trust first and probably don't cut the cards. And so they get so enamored with, wow, I'm going to be in business and this guy's going to help me.
It's an emotional decision. We're at VetedVids, we're really trying to make it more data backed, but at the end of the day, largely it's an emotional decision.
And that's the hardest part, because
for those that I stipulate that actually, for those that are looking more for like income replacement and leaving their current job, I would say it's very emotional. But for the multi-unit operators that are looking to scale up and exit in like 5 to 10 years, for those guys, it's more of a financial decision.
Totally. And they have their check marks and we did an interview with 1851 with a tropical smoothie franchisee. And we asked them, I'm very interested always in the process. And he's like, I was underqualified. They should have said no to me, but I was so dead set on convincing them to say yes. And now he's got like 30 locations. He continues to scale. That's a unicorn, Most that are underqualified, and in my opinion, I think all franchisors should qualify higher so the operating capital is higher, which means there's a little bit more bandwidth. They won't, but let's pretend that they did. Now the sudden validation increases because expectations are more aligned, and you're not panicking because you didn't make money that month.
Is there any particular industry that you see like more clients coming to you, like besides like food? Are there particular industries that you see?
Well, let me say this. I mean, food's a tough one. Unless you're scaling, you're not going to make a lot of money. You're talking in most cases somewhere between 10 and 15% net. And so, on a $1 million business that's open 24/7, you're going to walk away with $100,000. That's tough. So you have to think scale. Now you own 10 of those. Now you're talking about real money. But you have
and
to
you have an area manager, and you can like hang out with your family on the weekends.
On home service, majority of people that get into home service don't have scale in mind. So they're buying a truck in a truck model, and they're going to service the heck out of that community. And I think they do fine. So for us, like home service is super hot right now. And so what we challenge is, what's your point of differentiation? Because as a franchisee, you're going to have to see that. And then I think like you go into the stable categories, like education on various levels, like lower investment, more like tutoring, higher investment, like more daycare model. Yeah. Like that's a good, stable environment. And I even think how that industry navigated COVID and figured out how to still do their best to educate children was like, it was up and up for the most part. But I mean, to answer your question, home service is very busy right now. And I think it always has, but it's more like the bigger private equity funds are consolidating the groups and leveraging data. And I do think it's smart, because if you know the homeowner is going to spend X, then you can give them other services that they're going to need. I think it's a good category,
And I mean, people are just spending so much more time at home. I mean, the knowledge workers that can be living wherever, or maybe go one day into the office, they start recognizing all these issues with their home, and they need to have all these updates.
Right, which I think the next big wave is going to be membership for the home, which nobody has really owned. But I have a feeling that's on its way, because homeowners that are not handy are like, just do it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like that. I feel like that's our generation, where maybe like 30 years ago, people would do everything at their house. But and do you work with franchisees as well, or is it mostly just franchisors?
No, I mean, like our retainers on 1851 start at $1,500. Now that's working with a franchise brand. So most franchisees wouldn't spend that much. They might do it on a one-off for a PR moment when they're opening their location.
I could see, the opening, like they're spending a lot more. They should be spending a lot more than $1,500 a month when they're opening and getting in a new market.
Yeah. But my belief is, even there, like PR, let's say we knock it out of the park, we got them on TV, got them a print hit. It's not like it's going to create a minor spike. That's not sustainable. And so,
how about on the SEO side? Because it seems like a lot of your content places well on SEO, and that kind of localized SEO, can have a big impact.
A little bit, but it's still like, if you think about it, as easy as it is, a burger is going to be proximity. How fast can I get it? Where is it? And how much does it cost? And did I like my last experience? So it's not like SEO is going to magically do it. Now, I think Google Maps and Google My Business is invaluable in those scenarios, but that's kind of outside of the realm of what we're doing in most cases. So no, I mean, but franchisees telling their stories, we love it. So I'll say, like, I mean, we're on agency lockout. Like, other PR firms don't want their clients talking to us, but we love telling. Yeah, because
is it that cutthroat? Okay,
but it's not. I'll say it's not just agencies. Like, when we got into the publication side, the publications hated us. We're like, hey, we're going to build websites at cost for our clients, and the website companies hate us. I mean, we are hated, but I will stay on the mission of doing the best that we can. I will stay on the mission of trying to be the best human that I can, and keep battling the good fight.
I feel like just through collaboration, like maybe short term there's some lost profit, but like long term, you end up making more money, and it feels better. It's more fun.
That's the thing, and that's where like this conversation is. Like some people would watch a video that you do and be like, "Screw that guy,"
I hate
and I was
that
like,
guy.
"I'd like to talk to him because I think I can at least change your perception that
Definitely.
we're
No,
not."
you educated me very well about the franchise influencer, and we'll definitely add some changes in the description section of our video.
Well, and I think call this an opportunity for us to collaborate too, because I think anybody that's on the vetted business side, anybody that's trying to say, I know that I can't get my voice to everyone, but if you're out there doing your homework and you land on a piece of content that I've created, maybe I help you in some sense. So,
Exactly.
we'll find a pathway to work together too.
And then I was curious, just from franchisors. So is it really number one? It's leads, leads, leads. Is that the main reason they're engaging with 1851?
Well, again, like I go back to lead awareness versus lead generation. I think lead generation comes from smart persona targeting in the markets that make most sense for you. And in my opinion, most brands, concentric circles around high performing units tend to continue to protect AUVs as you continue to expand. So that's the lead. Like you could do digital ads into content for lead generation. Majority of franchise brands come to us for leads. 100%. I say, hold on. You're coming to us for deals. Let's not chase leads. We don't need 100 to buy one. We need one to buy one. And then what we started doing from a data standpoint is we went backwards and said, well, what's the first indicator of a lead? It's going to be traffic to your website. So you want to grow in Chicago, you better see people in Chicago that are interested in your brand. Now, Patrick, I think this is novel, and franchise brands don't like that I have this data, and it is what it is. But at the beginning of this year, we started, we took all these, again, to access the data. We're interviewing franchisees to learn their stories anyway. So we started building a database of the responses. And one of the questions that we asked was, from first impression of the brand to inquiry, not to purchase, how long did it take? And it's right now, you take the outliers out, which was like people that said 10 years.
So like one standard deviation either way, like what they thinking, or even two.
7.4 months. And
Okay.
so what franchisors get pissed about is they're like, well, I spent 20 grand on Google this month. I got nothing. And it's like, talk to me in 7.4 months from now.
Definitely. They should talk to the enterprise sales guys. Like that it takes a year plus to get the contract in.
But I get it, because I think that's another mix in franchising. It's called franchise sales, and sales guys are pressured to hit numbers. And when you're pressured to hit numbers, you need it to happen yesterday. But anyway, so I use that data point to say, like, we can put you on 1851. We can start building your story. We can tell all the good things about your product, your vision, the cost to get in, how much you can make, validation, and where you're growing. Like, we can do that all day long. That doesn't magically get you leads, and it doesn't magically get you deals. But when we find your deal that came in and we ask them about their buying process, most of the time they say, I did my homework around the web to get comfortable with this idea, and this process helped me get there.
And then I saw a Fran Connect study said, I think the number one source of leads that were closing was from the website.
I mean, it's such a dumb statement, because of course it is. Because what I do, here's the buyer journey. I learn about Nick and Patrick's hot dog stand. I went to Nick and Patrick's hot dog stand. I loved it. The product was great. Yeah. I go back home, and then an ad finds me. It's like, did you know that Nick and Patrick's hot dog stand is a franchise? They're like, oh, I didn't know. What's a franchise? I thought franchise. So now they got to educate themselves in that. So when they settle in and say, okay, wow, I could own my Nick and Patrick's hot dog stand, what they do is they've gone around the web. This is months past that moment. And what they do is they Google Nick and Patrick's hot dog stand. They go to the consumer sites. They click on franchising. They go to the franchise site. They fill out a form. Of course it is. That's the process.
It's clear.
Right.
Well, Nick, yeah, this has been a great conversation. Do you have any questions for me?
No, I mean, I would love to continue doing this, and have a follow up. I think even again, like I said, we'll find ways to. If you want to collaborate even on the influencer one as we do it next year, I think that'd be awesome. I guess we can close with what is your mission? What are you trying to accomplish as a business?
Bring more transparency to the market, starting with franchising, but we're moving into some other markets that are lightly regulated and need some further transparency. So starting with franchising, moving into business for sale, moving into crypto assets probably after that.
It's awesome. And you and your brother do it together?
Yes. Yeah. So we started our first company 7 years back, and now we have 35 employees, 25 full-time and 10 are contractors or part-time.
Awesome. We started our business in 2008. We have about 35 people, 37 people. And in COVID, we're now in 23 different states, so that makes it a little complex. But similar pathways. But my brother did work in our company. He probably hated it, so it didn't work out for me and my brother. But I'm glad it's working out for you and yours.
Yeah, no, it's good. I'd say 95% of the time it's good. And any relationship, whether it's your wife, brother, business partner, you hit 95. That's amazing.
Great. Patrick, thank you so much for the time. Appreciate the conversation and look forward to continuing talking.
Thanks, Nick. Appreciate it.